Hey, I'm Lydia, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you how I make my silicone molds for resin casting. But before I get started, go ahead and tap the subscribe button so that you never miss any of my tutorials. All right, let's get started. The supplies that I'm using are here on the screen, but also you can find a list as well as the links in the description below. I'm using a liquid silicone compound, which comes in two parts that you have to mix together, paper transfer tape, acrylic blanks, a hot glue gun, and a cake ring. The first thing I do is lay down some paper transfer tape so that when I pour the silicone compound, it has a flat surface to stick to. Next, I'm going to take the cake ring and press it down onto the paper transfer tape. Then I apply hot glue all along the edge of the ring. This is going to become a seal so that the liquid silicone won't seep out underneath the ring. As that dries and cools off, I'm going to move to my acrylic blanks. Now you can get these on Etsy or even on Amazon, but I use my Glowforge to cut acrylic into the shapes I want to use. Here I'm making an earring mold, so that's why these acrylic blanks have a hole at the top of them. I'm peeling the protective paper off of one of the acrylic blanks to show you that it's just a clear piece of acrylic with a shiny finish. Then I arrange my acrylic blanks so that there's enough room around each piece, including around the edges and the center, and that each acrylic piece has space from any other acrylic piece as well. Once I'm happy with the placement and the spacing of the acrylic blanks, I peel off all the protective paper and then press each acrylic piece onto that paper transfer tape that's laying on the table there. And this is also why the paper transfer tape is so important to mold making for me, because when I press the acrylic pieces down, I know that it's sticking to that paper transfer tape, and when I pour the liquid silicone, those pieces aren't going to move around. Once the pieces are in place, it's time to start mixing up my silicone. So as I said before, the silicone compound comes in two parts, and for this brand, I just need to mix equal parts. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. Depending on the brand you use, the ratio might change, and also the work time might change. So make sure that you read the labels of your mold making compound. Just like with epoxy resin, you have to take your time and mix this, making sure that you get all of part A and B mixed very well, and scraping the insides of the cup and the very bottom of the cup and in any crevices within the cup you're mixing in. So make sure that you mix it really, really well. Now that it's all mixed and ready to go, I go ahead and pour the liquid silicone over the acrylic pieces within the ring. While I'm pouring, I'm just taking my time, making sure it reaches all the way to the edges. And I'm also making sure that I'm pouring enough of the silicone to allow for the bottom of the mold to be nice and thick. You want your mold to be sturdy and not flimsy. So you want to make sure that there's enough liquid silicone being poured on top of those acrylic pieces so that your mold will have a nice thickness. All right, now that the silicone has fully cured, I let it sit overnight to cure. I peel it away from the transfer paper and then pop it out of the ring. Once it's out of the ring, I remove the acrylic pieces and I can use those for another craft. One of the really important things to remember when you're mold making is whatever the item is you're making a mold of, if it's shiny, then it'll make a shiny mold, which will then transfer into a shiny resin piece. But if the piece is more matte or dull or scratched, those traits are going to carry over into the mold and then carry over into your finished resin piece as well. So just keep that in mind when you're choosing the items you're going to use for your mold. The last thing I do with my molds, and it's totally cosmetic, you don't have to do it at all, is I trim around the edges with this little nail tool. I don't even know what the name of it is, but it takes off the edge off of the mold and makes it more rounded or smooth instead of that sharp edge. After I've cleaned up the edges, the mold is ready to use. And if you want to see how this mold holds up and what I created with it, make sure to watch this video next.